More terror, less filling. Welcome to I Hope You Suffer. Welcome to episode 26 of I Hope You Suffer. My name is Nathan.
I'm Kit.
And again, we are doing Stephen King movies this week. Thinner from 1996. Almost said Thriller.
We are talking about Thriller.
We're just going to break down the Michael Jackson video.
That's a bad week to do Thriller.
After that documentary or whatever.
Yeah.
As you heard, Katie is with us again.
Hello.
Katie made us very sick artwork for the month. If you are not following us on social media stuff, you missed it, and you're a jerk.
Yeah, so, I'm fighting.
Agree.
We are taking a hard stance on that. Horse people, time.
Boston accents.
Yeah. Just Tim Curry in general.
You don't want to be added to this list.
So, Katie and I were texting in the middle of the week, and I feel like I need to bring up that Katie hates the movie Christine. I was like, oh, I can't believe, like...
you hate Christine?
Explain yourself.
Because it's not good.
All right, you're fired.
That's not...
and call. No. It's not that I don't like it. It's just not, I don't know. It's just it's super ridiculous.
I mean, it is a very dumb premise, but John Carpenter
disagreed. Sweet premise.
About a dude that wants to fuck his car.
Some dirt bringing animals back to life is a dumb premise, but it's still sweet.
There's other things that work besides the dirt there.
Or are there?
I'm just gonna let you guys fight this out.
I'm gonna stand by Christine so hard that I think its use of Bad to the Bone is better than Terminator's.
I mean, I stand by Christine to the point that I think it's the second best John Carpenter movie, so...
Okay, well that's crazy.
No. The Thing, and then Christine, and then They Live. And then,
alright, well we're all fighting now.
And then The Ward.
Are you joking?
No.
I don't know if I'm serious or not.
That. I bought it and I still haven't watched it. Because I'm assuming it's going to be real terrible. Alright, so we're talking about Thinner. This movie is very problematic. Like,
extremely.
23 years later or some shit. So... I'm going to say the word gypsy a lot, and I'm just getting it out there because it is a major plot point of this movie. It is a gross slur, I'm aware. I don't really know what else I'm supposed to say, so just throwing it out there that we are fully aware that it is super gross.
I think we could probably refer to them as, like, the Limpke group, right?
Yeah, I guess that's true.
Oh, that's... Yeah.
Also, there's some pretty gross fat shaming in this movie as well. Almost everything about this movie is gross.
We didn't talk about it last time, but that's like a pretty big plot in a lot of his stories too. And I don't know, again, if it was just like... that was like pretty prevalent, I feel like. And it's in a lot of his stories. So, and actually I was going to say, there's I don't know if you call it a novella that came out recently by him called Elevation that like sort of deals with the same thing, but it's actually really good, so I totally recommend people read it.
I feel like he, like, based on what I have gathered from his writing, is that it feels like he probably uses it because it's like an easy kind of thing to be like descriptive about, I guess. Like, because it seems like he uses a lot of not necessarily like shaming, but like using kind of like overweight as a character point, especially with like Ben and It. And then I'm guessing the writing for this book is probably along the same lines.
Yeah, for sure.
Alright, so this movie is directed by Tom Holland, who is fucking awesome.
The national treasure.
Yeah, Child's Play and Fright Night, which are both perfect movies. And I will say that I was wrong, and this movie actually is kind of good.
What?
I did not like. It's real gross, and it's very like 90s, but like I don't know. I was expecting it to be way like I remembered it being way worse than it is. Like this is one of those movies that I remember like seeing in the theater and like almost walking out of. I hated it so much, and I don't know. I didn't hate it this much this time.
I think the only movie I almost ever walked out on was Alien versus Predator, and maybe Freddy versus Jason.
Kit is gonna fight you so hard.
I love Freddy vs. Jason. Alien vs. Predator is trash, though.
Freddy vs. Jason is pretty sweet, except for the Destiny's Child lady.
Well, okay, it had some pretty good moments, but it 100% was not like what I expected it to be.
Yeah.
I was pretty taken aback.
This movie.
I think a big part of why Thinner is better, or at least seems like it's better than it was, is Robert John Burke's performance in it. I feel like he's an underrated actor, and he does a really good job just becoming totally unhinged.
Yeah, like he's great in the second half. Like I hate him during the first half, but once he gets like real thin and he's just kind of like essentially just like slowly dying, I think he gets really good.
I don't know if it was just like they obviously put prosthetics on him in the very beginning, and I don't know if it was because of that, but his facial expressions made me so angry. He just like looked like he was always like smirking or constipated or something. I don't know, but it was like it really bothered me.
Yeah, he has like a weird like smirk shock look on his face.
He has the Batman problem too, where he can't just turn his head; he has to turn his whole body.
So this movie, like, obviously a Stephen King adaptation, written by Tom Holland and Michael McDowell, who wrote Beetlejuice 1 and is currently working on Beetlejuice 2.
Fuck you.
I hope that they are going from their original idea for the sequel to Beetlejuice, which was legitimately Beetlejuice Goes Hawaiian.
I'd watch that.
I will watch the absolute shit out of that.
I've watched dumber shit, obviously.
He also did at least one of the parts of Tales from the Dark Side.
Oh, which one?
I can't remember.
That's the real question.
I think he did one of the stories, and then I think he worked on like part of the like wraparound stuff, like that ties everything together.
He did Lot 249, which was the Mummy one, and then Lovers, which was the best one.
Yeah. I have like very distinct memories of seeing that Mummy one when I was like real young, and it was creeping me the fuck out.
It's so good.
Oh, it is.
Movie. It's fantastic.
So this movie stars Robert John Burke as Billy, who I wrote down is the worst RoboCop.
I mean, by default.
Yeah.
You can't compare with Peter Weller.
No. Joe Montana, who as Richie, who is the best part of this movie, even though he is very racist. Who
Oh my goodness.
is in Airheads, aka the greatest movie ever made, and probably most people know him from Fat Tony on The Simpsons and The Godfather, and pretty much every gangster movie ever made.
He really brings the Brooklyn sleaze.
Yeah, he's real good in it. I was like in the middle of the audio commentary with him as we right about like right as we started recording this, and he is bringing his A game in it.
He also narrates the audiobook,
Yeah,
so that was
yeah.
pretty
Oh, wow.
interesting.
I was
Yeah.
like, I saw that in the trivia, and I was like, oh, I kind of want to listen to the audiobook now.
Oh, I have some facts about the book if you want to do that first.
Yeah, let me get
Hell
through
yes.
these
Go
last
ahead.
couple people. Carrie Wurr as Gina Lemke, who is in a movie Kit will 10 million% back, Eight-Legged Freaks.
Yes.
And she was in the Swamp Thing TV show. That's what I know her from. Michael Constantine as Tadzu Lemke, and then a very easy Seinfeld connection with Daniel Van Bargen as Chief Duncan Hopley, who is Kruger in Seinfeld. And all right, so go ahead, Katie.
Oh, one more thing about the movie that I literally just saw today is that the budget for that was 14 million and it made 15.3 million. So I guess they
Success.
right, yeah. And another thing that I saw in the IMDb, which I don't remember what movie you guys were talking about, but before you were talking about how in the trivia people were asking like what car models were in the movie. And so if you look in the IMDb for this, there are a bunch of cars listed if anyone's
it has
curious.
like every car
Yes.
from the fucking movie listed in it. It's crazy. There's like 6 of them.
Whoever this guy is doing all the car work on IMDb, you're doing great. Thank you.
It was Raptor that we talked about it.
Yes.
All right, go ahead, Katie. Throw some trivia at us.
Sorry, I had to take a sip of my whiskey.
Fuck, I'm fucking ending this shit.
Whiskey.
I'm done.
Okay. So, this book, Thinner, was written by Stephen King when he was using a pen name, which was Richard Bachman. So, the book originally came out in 1984, and it was actually the last book that he released before he was outed as actually being Stephen King. There's some other books that he wrote under that pen name. I think the ones people might know about are The Man and the Long Walk. There's a few other ones. Also, he was writing Misery at the time. He was planning to release that under Bachman, but he was outed, so he just did it as himself. And the reason that he decided to do a pen name is because he wanted to see if his success was due to basically his name, like his name being attached to things, or if he actually had talent, which was like sort of interesting.
Yeah.
Because one critic literally wrote, "This is what Stephen King would write if Stephen King could write." So like, I mean, so I guess he never really got an answer to whether he was selling books because his name was attached to it, because he was like outed so soon. But I mean,
So this is gonna be a real dumb question. Is The Running Man like the movie The Running Man?
I assume so.
Yes.
Is it? I didn't know that was a Stephen King book.
Yep.
Interesting.
Which I totally forgot, and that retroactively add that to my favorite Stephen King adaptations from last week's episode.
Yeah, it's a good movie. All right. If I could dive into this garbage.
Yeah.
There was one thing I did. I wrote down that during filming, Tom Holland was stricken with Bell's palsy, and like the producers would not let him leave the set for like 36 hours to go see a doctor,
I did read about that.
Jesus.
which is like real fucked up.
Yes.
And like apparently that was like a really big impact on his health too.
Yeah, I mean, I can imagine.
I gotta say, even if you like this movie, that is not worth it.
Yeah,
No.
I don't think I would have. Like, I don't think any movie I enjoy, I would want to know that like somebody got like, you know, their health was like physically or they damaged for a long time because of it.
Joe Montaigne is not worth it.
Well,
Not worth hurting yourself for.
Let's not go too far.
I mean, almost, but
all right. So this movie opens with the Lemke Group, which I realize now sounds like a bank or lawyer law firm.
It does.
You see their car.
Ameritrade nemesis, the Lemke Group.
You see their car kind of going through town. They're like their caravan. You are introduced to Billy, who sees them drive by, and for some reason just immediately realizes what they are.
Honest to God, gypsies is what he says.
I don't know if I would ever see just like a band of cars go by and be like, oh, that's obviously a group of gypsies. Like, that's real weird.
I mean, they make it seem like, I don't know, maybe it was, I don't know what year this was supposed to take place, but they made it seem like this was like a thing that everybody knew about.
Yeah, it just passes through town once a month.
It's just America being racist, so I guess it's expected, right?
Yeah. Billy weighs himself, weighs 300 pounds, goes downstairs and tells his wife he's 297 instead. And then he suffers through some gross smoothie that I assume is probably actually pretty good, but, you know, gotta have that health food being gross nonsense in here. And I like the scene with, like, him and his daughter, like, quoting The Godfather back to each other.
Doing really, really bad impersonation.
So good. Essentially, you just get like this idea that Billy is defending Joe Montana's character, who is like a mafia boss, and like is more than likely guilty. I mean, probably definitely is guilty, but he takes the case anyway, gets Joe Montana off. Not in a sexy way.
That would have been a very
That's a little
different
later.
movie.
Yeah, that's the third act. That's the sequel, since this movie was a success. Joe Montana. This is just the first time I just wrote down Joe Montana fucking rules. You also get a bunch of fucking, it's throughout this entire movie, of just shit of Billy eating, and I hate it so much.
Yeah, it's not attractive eating,
No,
I would say.
The sound of
No
people
one-
eating in general is just gross, and it's just him just slurping down like pies and sucking on chicken bones and shit. It's real gross.
No one eats like this person. No one.
Other than like competitive eaters.
Even them. Joey Chestnut has never eaten like this.
Blown a fucking chicken bone. You see like Billy showing up at like his law firm and goes is just fucking has to suffer his way walking up a bunch of stairs because he's overweight, and obviously they you get this fucking cool scene of him and I guess his boss just being like real gross and saying real sexist things about Gina as they're watching this like fair that the Lemke Group is having. I did not write down any of the quotes because they are pretty gross. I feel like I'm gonna say gross a lot in this, and
100%.
It's the right word. It's the right word.
My next note was just cool gypsy racism / bigotry, which pretty much could just be every note for this fucking movie. I feel like I passed some shit up, but
I don't think so.
I don't know. Like the whole
I think all this happens pretty quick into the movie.
yeah, like a lot of this first like 15 minutes is just kind of like I guess just character introduction shit. It doesn't really get into anything good until Billy and his wife are out to dinner, and on the way home, she gives him some roadhead and the hand job, which is like the only thing I remembered from seeing this movie in the theater.
Never before has Roadhead been such a pivotal plot point in a film.
Well, my favorite thing is that, like, when she's doing, he's just, like, patting her back. He's like, yeah, there you go, good job. And I was like, oh.
Oh, it's so weird. Like,
Like she just hit a home run in softball. Work.
it's so, like, awkward, and like you could tell they were trying to make it sexy, but also like didn't know how to make it sexy. And it just
No, and
like,
especially because at this point he's still making the terrible faces, so it was really, really terrible.
oh god. So Billy is getting blown by his wife Heidi, and like gets distracted and just runs over what I thought was Tatsu's wife, because she's like 80, and then you find out later it's his daughter because he's 106 or some shit.
We did skip over a delightful cameo by Stephen King.
Yeah, that was the next thing I was gonna say, is that like Stephen King has a cameo as a pharmacist that
It was so funny.
it's he's like filling a prescription for Tatsu and I guess his daughter before they get hit, and then is like in the court scene kind of like telling what he saw in the next scene, and he's pretty good in it.
And they ask him, like, did she run or something? And he was like, well, I don't know if she did or not.
She's 80, she is not running.
Can we all agree that someone getting run down by someone who's getting a blowjob on the road is like the most Stephen King thing that could ever happen?
Is that in the book? Like, is that...
Yeah. Oh,
is-
yeah,
how-
it sure is.
It's super descriptive, I assume.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I
My
can't wait
favorite
to
part
hear
is
Joe
when
Montana
she's...
read that.
Oh, well, I don't think I knew that it was him at that point. Like, for some reason, I listened to so many audiobooks that people sound familiar to me, so, like, I didn't even think about it until later, and I was like, oh, gross. But my favorite part about that is, so, like, they're eating dinner, then they leave from the restaurant, and she's, harassing him about his weight again, and she's like, you really need to lose weight or what? And he was like, all I can think about is food, and then that's when she's like, what do you think about this or whatever? And she's like very drastically like bobbing her head, and I just was like, I don't think that's right.
My favorite part, though, is that his facial expression from the entire first half of this movie doesn't change either.
No, that's why I'm saying it bothered me.
He just looks like he's getting head the entire fucking first half of the movie. There's also I'd read the fact right before I watched it, and it was super noticeable after I did, that after they hit the lady with the car and like the windshield wipers do like the blood smear, there is a clown face in it.
Yeah, I noticed that too because I read it beforehand, and I was
Yeah.
like,
I had never noticed that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna rewatch this movie as soon as we're done here.
You will never not see it now. So they're in court and trying to figure out basically how guilty Billy is, but the judge and Duncan, who is Kruger from Seinfeld, are basically covering up that Billy was in the wrong because he's just a popular dude about town and a good lawyer, I guess. And
Yeah, I think they're all friends from high school or something, right?
oh, are they?
I don't know if they cover it in the movie or maybe it was just something in the book.
I don't necessarily remember that, but yeah, they do all go pretty far back, and also they're all super white and racist, so they were just aside from that, just ganging up on her.
Yeah, I mean, I just assumed it was since they all kind of work for the justice system or whatever, they were just tight from that. That was kind of what the I got from the movie, at least. But Billy is found not guilty, even to the point where they cover they make it so he doesn't get any points on his driving record or anything like that. And as he's leaving the courthouse, Tatsu comes up to him, brushes his cheek, and just says thinner.
Right
And-
before that, when they walk out of the courthouse, I laugh so hard because he throws his keys to his wife and he goes, "You drive."
I'm going down on you this time.
Oh no.
That's when the movie just takes a turn. So Billy has now been cursed. You can finally get rid of this absolutely terrible fat suit makeup.
Thank God.
Well,
not
yet,
yet.
But
We've got one scene I can't wait to talk about.
So it's basically like the next day, Billy is now down to 283 pounds. I think it's supposed to be the next day. This is the first time I noted that I hate all of the eating in this movie.
I wrote retro Doritos, so at some point he was eating Doritos, which apparently I thought was really cool. But my favorite thing is when he weighs himself the next morning, he goes, "Oh, somebody called Richard Simmons." Like, what?
I think there's like numerous scenes in this that he's eating those Doritos. Because they show up, I think, like later in the movie as well, when he's like driving around trying to track down the Lemke group.
There's a whole generation that doesn't get that Richard Simmons joke, and that kind of makes me sad.
Yeah. People should look up Richard Simmons.
Do people not know who he is still? He's got a
Sure.
pop figure,
You
so...
don't.
Yeah,
Oh,
but
well.
I mean, like, there's a lot of people that have pop figures. I think, 80% of at least America probably doesn't know who they are. I feel
We
like
need to make Richard Simmons a Funko Pop, and then I think everyone would know.
isn't that what Katie just said? They have one.
I'm pretty sure
there-
they do. I thought so.
I can hear Kid googling it now.
Maybe I'm thinking of Bob Ross. I'm pretty sure
They do
that
have a Bob Ross one.
Yep, no Richard Simmons Funko
Oh.
Pop.
Funko,
Oh,
what are
well,
you doing?
I trademark it. Give me money.
Done. Heard it here first.
Literally, it's just gonna be the Bob Ross one without a mustache.
Maybe they can like make his little leg up or something.
Just standing on one of those little like platform things.
Anyways, my point was, call him for what? His point is to help people exercise and stuff. Like, what do you... Anyway, moving on.
No, we're getting into this. So the next scene is the Billy golfing with all of his cool racist friends, all the cool white men from town.
Drink!
Fuck.
You get like a thing of, I think it's the judge who like is talking about like, hey, he's got that spot on his chest that
This is the shower scene.
Well, not yet. They're in like the
Oh,
locker
he's
room,
just talking about it.
and like because Billy goes to get weighed again, and I think Mike is the guy that's weighing him, and he's like, "You'll be able to see your balls without using a mirror soon."
Every boy's
I only wrote
dream.
that down because I was like, I bet Kid laughed at this.
Absolutely, I did.
I don't know who says it or why, but I wrote, hay is for horses, better for cows.
I don't even remember that. And then you get to Kit's favorite scene that I'm gonna let him explain.
So, after a rousing game of golf, Kerry Rossington and Billy are in the shower just talking to each other, and there's an extremely extended shot of Billy just standing there, and he's just like very half-assedly, like lightly caressing the top of his stomach in the shower. Like that's all of the washing he's doing is just that one spot of his stomach while talking to Kerry Rossington. And it just cracked me the fuck up.
The the only bonus thing on the DVD that isn't the audio commentary is like a breakdown of the makeup effects.
I thought you were going to say a 20-minute extended cut of that scene. Where he's just lightly caressing his belly.
Him rubbing his belly for like 20 minutes. But they talk about how like, because it's all like foam rubber and like latex, that like as they were shooting, all of it was like the suit was just absorbing the water and soap and like whatever and just becoming heavier and heavier. So it made the entire thing like sag more. But it also got like insanely heavy for like Robert Burke to be wearing. And that originally they had only made it to go to see kind of from like that mid chest all the way up, but then they like, I guess they made him like an entire suit essentially in case they wanted to do like
a weird
shots.
Shower scene.
Yeah. Yeah, the makeup in that, like at that point, all the makeup for about like the first half of this movie is not great. Probably pretty good for like 1996, but does not hold up to the Klumps movies. This is about the time you start getting one of 800 scenes of Heidi and Billy arguing about his weight loss, where she thinks he has cancer, and he's yelling at her that if he's too fat, he's gonna have a heart attack. If he's losing too much weight, he's obviously got cancer. And she convinces him to go see Mike to get some tests done, and they all come back like fine. He even says like, "You're probably healthier than I am." Billy is now down.
I don't believe that.
I don't either. Billy is now down to 238 pounds. My next note is Billy blowing the shit out of this chicken bone. Oh, I hated it so much. Like this scene of him just fucking eating everything is just bummed me out so much, especially when she brings him that pie.
Yeah, between him, like, eating all this food and then his daughter just, like, crying and stomping out of the room, I was like, what is happening?
Yeah. They argue about the blowjob for a minute. Because go ahead.
He said, was I giving myself a blowjob?
She's like, I didn't hear you complaining at the time.
That is exactly what I texted Nathan earlier when I was watching.
It's crazy how much this movie comes down to him being angry about this fucking roadhead.
Oh my god, listen. So, in the book, it's like literally every second he's like, I'm so mad at her for doing that. She's never done anything like that before. How dare she? And it's like, he is one of the most unlikable like main characters of any of these things that Stephen King has written, because he literally does not see any fault in anything he's done, and he just like blames her. He blames what's her name that he killed?
The like Lem Tatsu's daughter or whatever.
Yeah. He blames her for like walking out into the street still, and it's just like over and over and over again. He's just like blaming her. I mean, she's terrible too, because she like thinks, I mean, obviously it was everybody's fault. Like, don't do that.
Yeah.
Don't walk out in front of cars or whatever, but they're all just like so like trying to just pretend like they're not at fault here, and it's just really annoying.
I feel like even in the movie, like, he never learns anything.
Not at all.
Like, I'm guessing, like, at least from what you've said about the book, it seems like they did a pretty good job making him just completely unlikable, and then like never really understanding that like what he did is wrong, or that he does understand it but kind of just doesn't care. I also want to, when we get towards the end, I want to ask about the ending of the book, because I know I saw something about how they changed the ending in the movie because like test screenings, like everybody hated it.
Yeah.
Alright, so Billy and Heidi are arguing again. Pretty much that's all they do for the rest of the movie. Billy, I feel like something happens in between this. I don't remember, but Billy shows up at like the judge's house because he.
Go ahead. He's eating at a restaurant and he sees the judge's wife, and then, right? I think.
Yeah. They had like him and Mike, I think, have the conversation about how Carrie had gone to
the Glassman clinic.
Yeah, because it's like a quote unquote psoriasis is acting up or some shit. Yeah. But he shows up at the judge's house, and his wife Lita like answers the door and is just like super cavalier about just like, oh yeah, you're cursed. Like, obviously you got a curse on you. But my favorite part of this, and I would much rather watch a movie about this judge turning into a lizard.
Yeah,
Yes.
for sure.
Oh, because it sounds amazing. She like explains to him that after, or like, you know, Tatsu had kind of like come up to Carrie and like touched him and just said lizard, and all of a sudden his skin started to become like scaly, and goes into this kind of like pretty good like description of what was happening to him, and it sounds way better than this dude just losing a fat suit.
Gaining a lizard one.
Oh god, I want to see that movie so bad.
The reveal on that lizard skin outfit is so worth it, though.
Yeah,
in this one.
I'm bummed that it's not like real though.
Yeah, agreed.
So Billy decides to call Richie, and he's kind of asking him if he thinks like these curses are real. And Richie like talks to his mom, who says a bunch of stuff in Italian, and like I'm assuming curses some lady that's standing next to Richie, because she like yells something at her and like spits at her. Basically at this point, Billy's kind of slowly putting together and coming around to the idea that maybe he was actually cursed. You get more Billy and Heidi arguing, and now he's like talking about how he thinks he was cursed, and she's thinks he's losing it. She convinces him to go to a clinic. I can't remember what the name of it was.
Glassman, I think it's the same one that
the same one?
Judge was at. Yeah,
Oh, I
And-
think the judge went to the Mayo Clinic, and he went
That's
to
what it was.
That's right. Yes.
I also wrote, like, they're having this argument in the car, and then she, like, almost hits an RV. So I think that just, like, nobody in this town can drive.
I think she's
yes.
just
Everyone
she's
everyone
cursed.
needs those little scooters, those electric scooters that are everywhere
We
now.
should all have
Oh my
scooters.
god. Roller skates.
Just a town full of rollerbladers.
I'm into it.
I'd watch that movie.
Yeah.
Basically, the clinic he's at finds nothing wrong. They want him to stay to continue to do tests on him, and he's just like, fuck this, and leaves. Goes to Chief Duncan's house, and Duncan has been cursed too. And has got... does he explain, like, what his curse was? Other than just his fucking face
I don't-
gets all fucked up.
I don't think he does in the movie. I don't recall what it was in the book, because I read the book like 7 years ago. Katie, do you recall what it was in the book? I think it was just like tumors or something, right?
I'm guessing that's a no.
I feel like it had something to do with... I could be wrong, but I feel like it was something to do with, like, because he was the one that was, like, telling them that they needed to leave or whatever. So I think it was kind of like, you treated us like a... Yeah, I don't know, like a curse on this town, and so now you're just gross. I don't know.
Yeah.
Wikipedia says leper, so
Oh, is that
Well,
you're
yeah.
correct.
okay?
So he becomes mutated with large boils.
That makes
Yeah.
sense. Like, he treated them like lepers, trying to kick them out of town. Okay, so
Right.
I just couldn't remember if, like, he actually said that in the movie or not. I pretty much the entire time, all I could do was picture him as Kruger from Seinfeld, so... Basically, Duncan is just, like, yelling at Billy about how he needs to go kill Tadzu and his group. Because basically, he's just like, they're never going to take this curse off you, like... stop this from happening to anybody else. Like, trying to force this gun on Billy. Billy doesn't take it. As Billy leaves, he hears like a gunshot, and presumably Duncan has killed himself.
That was a pretty bleak moment
Yeah,
in this movie.
that's like a pretty good scene. Like all the stuff with
Yeah.
Duncan and like just kind of like hidden behind the light, and then the reveal is all pretty good. One of the things too, like I read or in the little featurette thing about like the effects is like they had to like I forgot to write down the guy's name, but the guy who was like ahead of the effects company working on it was flying like back and forth from like Maine and I think California, and like having to like haul all this shit or like FedEx overnight all of this shit. And like it just seemed like a complete fucking nightmare trying to get any of the effects work on this movie done. So even like the stuff with Duncan and then like the stuff with Carrie and like his lizard skin reveal like is all actually pretty good if you know like how much work and it was to try and get any of this shit done.
I mean, it all looks pretty good except for Halleck.
Yeah, but I think I was when Kit and I were texting earlier, like I think it looks really good when he gets like super skinny. And especially like when he get like there at the lighthouse at the end, like he legitimately looks like a corpse. It's just all the stuff when he's like overweight that just looks kind of real cheesy. You get more shit with Billy and Heidi arguing, and he's just like, no, like I'm cursed, like this is a thing. He at some point yells that he's being erased at her.
I love the way he delivers that line.
Yeah.
By this point, it's just he's descended into just all of his delivery is just full-throated mania. I'm being erased.
Yeah, like his like voice change in it is pretty great, where it just kind of sounds like his esophagus is like wearing away.
Yeah, he sounds completely like the lunatic he has become at this point in the movie.
Billy goes to see somebody that like whoever explains to him that like Lemke is 106 years old.
So he, I think, is in the book. There was like this whole part about a private detective, but I don't think that they said who he was in the movie. And at first, I wrote WTF is this guy, and then I was like, oh, I think it's the private detective.
Yeah, it's the guy that like basically cons him out of $800 or whatever, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, he explains because he says something about how it's like Tadzu's daughter is who he killed, and you're just like, he's like, how was that possible? Like she was at least 70 or 80, and then he like just says something about how Tadzu is actually like 106 and came to America in like 1917 at the age of 26 or some shit, and I don't know why this thought popped into my head while I was like watching it at this point, and I was like, I wrote down, serious question, do you think Billy is shitting a lot, or if he's just actually just like nothing is coming out because it's just wasting away in him? And like I need to know. Get Science Corner, let's go.
That's a great question.
Because he's just eating like a fucking maniac. And like it's like I want to know the science about like how this is happening.
Behind that.
I feel like if he's like eating a ton and not his body's like not holding onto any of it, I feel like probably he's shitting a lot. He's just like right? It's all going.
I'm gonna tweet at Stephen King and ask him that.
You get Stephen King, I'll tweet at Tom Holland.
Oh, good idea. I have no idea where we're at now after that question.
Okay. Okay, so the private detective part I thought was really weird, like even in the book, because he hires this private detective to like find out who Lemke is, and the private detective's like, yeah, I have all this information, and then somehow Heidi and the doctor had already found this guy and was like, hey, if you hear from my husband, you should tell us. And so that's why he gives him the money. It's like bribery money. So he's basically like, don't tell my wife that you talked to me.
That's right, because my next note was just Heidi and Mike are fucking. And I was like, I don't remember what this is about.
Okay, so the thing that's weird about that is that I might have just totally missed this, but I don't remember anything in the book like alluding to the fact that she was having an affair with the doctor, but they like heavily lean into it in the
Well,
movie.
In the commentary, like around, like pretty much right as we started recording, I got to this point, and it's Tom Holland and Joe Montana, and they're kind of talking about how test audiences and like critics and everything after the movie came out were just like angry about that whole plot point, because they were just like, they never say whether or not it's happening, and there's like, he was like, I just wanted to have this kind of open-ended thing that it's like up to the viewer of like, do you think she's cheating on Billy or not? And like, he throws in kind of like small things, like when Billy calls and talks to his daughter, and then she comes in to pick up the phone, she's like readjusting her clothes and shit. And I don't know, I find it's kind of interesting, a little plot point that they just never fully answer, and I kind of like that. But I mean, I don't know. I think she is, at least the way the movie portrays it.
Right. I just don't. Either I missed it or I don't remember that being part of the book at all. I mean, it makes sense to me if you're trying to make it seem like he's like spiraling into, like he's losing so much weight that he's like delirious and he's like making up the stuff. Like, does he need even more of a reason to like hate his wife? I guess maybe he does. I don't know.
Yeah, like I do. I really enjoy the way that they make it like, it's like half of it, you like half the time you're just like, no, he's just fucking crazy, and then you have shit like at the end when Mike shows up at the door and you're like, oh no, like something definitely was going on here. And I don't know, I think they do a good job of kind of just leaving it real ambiguous either way.
I do really like that reading of it. It's one I hadn't thought of before. Is, he's just so far gone at this point. He's kind of digging for reasons to hate his wife, and maybe
to, like,
by
justify.
the end justifying. Yeah.
Like that's kind of how I felt throughout the entire time I was watching it, until you get to the end when like Mike shows up. And then, I don't know, I almost still kind of think like it's more along the lines of like Mike is probably in love with Heidi and she just wants nothing to do with it.
Yeah, I mean, we'll talk about the ending when we get to it, but I think that one of the things that they didn't really leave it out, but I think they do really write Heidi in a way that makes it seem like she does really care about him. Like, she's kind of annoying the way she's always like, how much do you weigh? How much do you weigh? But like, they portray her in the book as being like very loving and concerned towards him.
Yeah, and I think that's how it's supposed to be in the movie. Like, it is like kind of annoying, but at the same time, that like she loves him and like it's all for like his well-being or whatever.
Right. So when he walks in on them, they're talking about having him involuntarily committed, which again in the book I don't remember him actually ever going to the clinic, but maybe I don't remember that part. But they did definitely go straight to like, well, we're just gonna make him go whether he wants to or not.
Yeah. So Billy is kind of out looking for the Lemke group. Comes across a flyer for their fair. He shows up at the fair, goes to confront Tadzu and Gina, and there's like this weird interaction where like Tadzu is just like, oh, I don't even need to weigh you to tell you that you're at like 150 pounds or whatever, and then next week it'll be 143, and you don't want to know about the week after that. And like, Gina gives him this fucking amazing thinner doll that I wish I owned. I want
it is pretty cool looking. I
want the one of the judge as well. I did, like, I immediately got on like eBay and I was like, I wonder if there's props for sale from this, because like, I don't fucking want one of these dolls. Gina like throws this doll at him and then chases him with a slingshot as he goes like it was just so weird.
Okay, I wrote
what a
like
crazy sentence.
I wrote she chases him out with a slingshot too. She is like so crazy.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. As he goes like running off and she kind of like chases him out of the fair, a car screeches up and it is Judge Carey, aka Judge Lizard.
I wrote Carrie pulls up looking crispy.
I just wrote Judge Lizard saves him. The judge pulls up. Billy gets in the car. Gina's still chasing him with a fucking slingshot and like shoots out one of the windows. As they go driving off, all of a sudden like Tatsu is driving a fucking semi at them. They're on this bridge and they get like trapped on it and get like they're getting hit by the semi, and then there's like a bus that comes driving at them, and then
Tetsu is like also driving.
Yeah.
He drives like a bunch of cars.
If you get on IMDb, you can find out what kinds they are.
That's right.
But basically, then all of a sudden Billy wakes up and it's like all a dream. And end of movie. No, they
I want to talk up how good Kerry Rossington's lizard makeup is.
It's pretty sick.
Like, it's so awesome. It's
Like,
like that like cracked earth look.
Yeah,
like
I was gonna
out
say,
in the desert.
like it looks like, you know, in like Drag Me to Hell, when like the girl at the end is actually getting like dragged in, and she kind of turns into that kind of like ashy and like fire shit. Like it kind of looks like that, but like not CGI'd.
It's like a Harlequin baby, full grown.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I wish there was more of it. Like I wish it wasn't a dream and he actually like saved him, and there was just some kind of actual like interactions with him and shit.
Or like he resumes being a judge, and you just see him like
Judge Lizard.
He would get a TV show so fucking fast. Like,
oh my god!
He would be a billionaire. So you find out that the judge in the real world has killed himself because of being a lizard. So now basically the only person still left with the curse is Billy. This is the scene where like Billy calls his daughter, and then like Heidi comes walking in, like adjusting her clothes to talk to him on the phone, but he doesn't want to talk to her. He's still mad about the roadhead. He shows up at the Lemke Group's like campsite, and basically is like begging for them to take the curse off, and you get this pretty great scene of Michael Constantine just like chewing the scenery all over the place as Tatsu, and like being like, "White man from town, I'm not lifting the curse."
Drink.
Says it like 800 times.
I just drank.
Drink again.
It's this whole scene is real good. Like this, Constantine and then Robert Burke are just like killing it here.
My favorite quote from the scene is when he says, "Justice is about justice."
Yeah. Oh, God.
I mean, he's not.
I hope that was an actual quote from the book.
Yes.
I like when like Billy is like threatening him with his own curse after he's been like shot in the hand with the fucking slingshot.
Right.
The curse of the white man from town. Drink.
Robert Burke is like real good in this scene, like especially after he gets shot in the hand and he's just fucking like pissed. That's really good.
I cringe so hard every time I see him take that ball bearing through the hand. Oh,
Yeah,
God, that's
It kind of reminds me in the Evil Dead remake when the dude gets smashed in the hand with the fucking crowbar.
oh,
And
fuck.
it just like splits his hand in half. Yeah. After all this shit, this like kind of showdown, and Tatsu refuses to lift the curse, says he'll never do it. Billy says he's gonna put a curse on them, basically leaves and calls Richie for a doctor because he can't go back to like his town or whatever. Richie's doctor shows up and then like fixes his hand, says something about how he needs to get off the diet he's on.
He said, "If it's a diet, you can come off it now. You have my permission." Like,
Like he's
he
this
was waiting
actual
for
doctor.
Yeah,
Right,
thanks,
and, like-
Poppy, a doctor.
and like also he needed permission from somebody to say don't be on this diet anymore. I don't know.
The next day, like Richie shows up, and this is when you get kind of like Richie calls and talks to somebody, and you find out specifically that earlier when like Mike and Heidi were talking that they were going to have Billy like involuntarily committed because they think he's just gone crazy. Richie and Billy come up with like a plan to like fuck with the gypsies, I guess. And Richie shows up at their camp to poison their dogs and delivers the grossest line of the movie. When the dogs are barking at him, it says, "Do I smell like a gyp?" And it
Jesus.
is real fucking terrible.
I just wrote a big sad face over this entire scene. Because, like,
Accurate.
not only that, but he poisons all the dogs, but also the dogs are all barking at him. Like, isn't that the point of them, to, like, alert to people that are, like, coming to the camp and they don't do any, they don't come out to the dogs at all.
I don't know, it's real weird. I also, like, don't understand how they travel with all of these dogs.
I don't know, because they're in some kind of, like, pen. Oh, you know what? Don't they, like, rent out people's farms and stuff? So maybe it was, like, the farmers' dogs? I don't know.
Oh, maybe.
Which case, that's really fucked up.
But he poisons all these dogs and leaves a sign that says, "White man from town says take it off." And
Drink.
Paul's bringing me
Are
toys
we-
instead.
Are we drinking it White Man from Town or Curse of the White Man from Town?
All.
White man.
Fuck. I'm too much of a lightweight for this.
Well, white men have a lot for you to drink about. Sorry.
Okay, that's fair. I can't argue with that. Drinking.
I think this is the point that I wrote down Robert Burke is actually really good in this movie. Like, he's at this
Everything
point,
but RoboCop,
yeah.
in my opinion.
Let's not talk about that. What else is he in? Like, I saw like everything on his IMDb that I was seeing was just like a shit ton of TV shows I've never watched.
I think he was fantastic in Rescue Me.
Okay.
I will stand for the first few seasons of Rescue Me. Everything after that,
It
you're
seemed
on your own.
Like a bunch of the stuff I saw was like cop dramas that I'm just like, I've never watched this.
He was in a really good movie by the dude that did Hardware, Dust Devil, I think it was.
Hardware is really good. So Richie is now kind of like working for Billy to get back at this group and like pay some dude to kind of spy on them, and if they like try to leave their camp or like whatever, to call him and let him know. You cut to the next day and Richie... Oh, well, there's also, like, a real awkward scene where, like, Richie's talking to this dude in the parking lot and he immediately makes, like, a joke, like, or says something about, like, how he'll do whatever, it just can't be filmed.
It's fucking weird.
Yeah, you pretty much get the idea that this dude is, I guess, supposed to be maybe a prostitute, but I don't know. It's real awkward. The next day, like, a mail truck pulls up or whatever, like a FedEx type truck, and Richie has a bunch of guns delivered. And as the mail truck leaves, it reveals the guy from the previous scene that was paid to spy on him. His car, like, in kind of outside of Billy's house, wherever he's staying right now, and has "White Man from Town" written on it and something else.
Drink.
And he is like dead in the car with "never" scrawled across his forehead in blood.
This scene fucked me up, like, as a kid seeing it. He
So,
has
like-
the, like, ball bearings where his eyes should be, and like a chicken jammed in his fucking mouth.
Yeah.
Like I didn't notice the ball bearings, but yeah, the chicken's real crazy. I don't remember why I wrote this specifically, other than it's true. I just wrote Richie is low key racist as fuck.
Low key, highest key.
I don't remember what he says. Like I feel like he says something at this point that's not like real overt, but like pretty fucking racist. Although it was the 90s, so probably like not at all at that point.
Yeah, probably super tame for like, I don't remember what he said, but I did write, okay, so Richie is like obviously a mobster, so he's like cool with killing people, but I also wrote the Lemke group, they're just like casually murdering people also.
Yeah.
And like nobody, it's like totally cool. They're just like murdering people.
Yeah, seems to be
Murder
pretty
was
much
in the
how it works.
90s.
I mean, you're right though.
So Richie now is pissed and shows up at the camp and just like fucking like knocks out one dude and like duct tapes his mouth shut and then just wildly opens fire on the entire crew, like camp. Because they hired Joe Montana and they were just like, we're gonna give him like a machine gun and just let him go fucking crazy in one of these scenes.
Why else would you hire Joe Montana?
I mean, agreed. What are you laughing at?
Because the next thing that I wrote was that, so I don't know if they say this, oh maybe, I don't know. In the book it was like, this part with Janelli in it goes on for fucking ever. It's like chapter after chapter after chapter of him like explaining all the things he did to like harass these people. And so I think at one point is her name Gina?
Yeah.
The ball bearing
the daughter
lady.
or whatever.
Yeah. I think at one point he like finds her brother and like he like fucks him up and sends him back to the camp and is like, tell them that I said take the curse off or whatever. And so in this part, I don't remember if it happened or whatever, but in the movie, it's like her husband, I think, that he goes running towards them, like away from Janelli, and they just like kill him by accident.
Like he has his like mouth duct tape shut, and then like I think Richie just puts another sign on his chest or something about like taking the curse off, and so like he can't yell anything out, and I think they're supposed to assume that it's like Richie coming at them, and that's why they're firing on him, but it's not really explained very well that that's what's happening.
I think they need glasses.
Well, yeah. But yeah, they, Gina's husband is the one that, like, is walking at him and gets shot, and then she, like, freaks out. And you cut to the next day where Richie shows up as an FBI agent to talk to Gina, says that they have, like, whoever did it, or they think whoever did it in, like, custody or something like that, and, like, asks her to come be, like, confirm the identity or whatever, which she is real fucking stupid for going to, like, a barn with him to confirm the identity of this fucking person.
Right.
But they show up at this barn wherever Billy is kind of staying at, and he sees like Richie walking her into the barn. Richie attacks her, throws like a jar of what ends up being like soda and something else in her face, and he just says "acid bitch" and throws it in her face. And I just wrote down "acid bitch" is my favorite Doom band.
Acid bitch. Just starts like banshee screaming.
Yeah, I mean I would too, but but if he says it's like soda pop or something else, I don't remember what he says is what it actually is. But he's kind of like interrogating her is not the right word, but it's just like fucking with her, just like have your dad meet us at this lighthouse. Like, this curse is getting taken off or something, and
Yeah, he's basically like, I'll kill you and the kids and everybody
yeah, like,
else
I'll kill
if you don't
everybody
do
in
this.
the camp. But then he puts an actual jar of acid on her forehead,
Right.
which is pretty fucking dope. And basically, like, it's just like Tatsu needs to meet us at the lighthouse, or else I'm gonna kill everybody at your camp, like, whatever. You cut to Richie dropping Billy off at this lighthouse. Billy, at this point, just looks like he is a corpse. He's, like, completely, like, gray. Like,
He's very gooey.
yeah. Well, like, cause, like, it's like his skin at this point is just literally just, like, hanging off his skeleton. Like, he basically has to have, like, no muscle definition anymore. And it's like, after he's down on the bench, like, you could, like, he's not really able to, like, hold his head up. And he's basically just, like, going in and out of consciousness and shit. But he's at this lighthouse sitting on this bench and passes out and wakes up to Tatsu, like, telling him to wake up, and says something about how his dreams smell terrible. Which
Yeah.
is a really weird line, but I'm kind of into it. And this is when
It made me wonder how my dreams smell. Honestly,
I'm gonna say, like, Dr. Pepper and marinara sauce.
you're not wrong.
And this is where this movie gets real fucking weird.
This is the point.
I mean,
An hour and 20 minutes in is where it gets really weird.
when the fucking pie shows up, it's just, like, real weird. And is this pie part of the book?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Amazing. I'm gonna fucking listen to this audiobook now.
The descriptions of the pie are actually really gross.
Oh, I can
too.
imagine.
So,
I assume
I
they're
think
just
that-
described like a dick, like he does everything else.
Sort of, actually. They did a really good job, I think, translating that part of it.
I mean, like, I can't compare it to the book, but, like, it's pretty well done, and especially, like, after when, like, the pie is kind of, like, pulsating a little bit, and
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
not bad. It's just real weird that, like, the plot just boils down now to, like, this pie. But Tatsu basically is like, if you want the curse taken off you, I have to transfer it to this pie. So he cuts open the pie and stabs Billy in his already wounded hand, and, like,
In his hand hole, which was, like, really gross.
But at least it's his already fucked up hand.
yeah, so now he can still use his other hand at least.
Yeah.
I guess.
The small upsides.
The effects on the pie are, like, pretty good, like I said, and it's like you see the pie kind of, like, sucking in this blood through this, like, cut in it. And it basically boils down to that, like, he has to transfer the curse to this pie and then have somebody eat the pie so that they have the curse instead of him. And Billy immediately is like, oh, I know who I'm gonna give it to, my fucking cheating wife.
Or he says, eat your own pie. Die thin, but die clean.
Yeah.
He says die clean like 20 times.
Well, I mean, I think he's pretty obviously being like, hey, dude, this is probably, like, what you should do. So, like...
Yeah.
Yeah, don't be an asshole and murder someone else. Just eat the pie.
So Billy shows back up to his home and kind of, like, tells Heidi, like, oh, like, I'm back, I'm better now. I brought you a present. It's in the kitchen.
A strawberry pie. My favorite.
As, like, he's going upstairs to, like, go to sleep or whatever, she's in there. It's like, oh, is this strawberry? It's my favorite. And he's like, yeah, it is. And then delivers the line, getting even.
Yes.
Oh, wait. Getting even is also what it's all about, you bitch.
Yes. He also calls her a white woman from town.
Yes. He wakes up the next day and is, like, talking to Heidi and, like, pulls back the covers, and she is now dead, and delivers
And very gooey.
the
Looks very gross.
grossest fucking kiss I have ever seen in my life.
Oh,
Because he, like, goes at her with his mouth already like wide open. It is real gross. I hated it so much.
Nathan,
he
I've been
goes-
drinking. Please stop.
And then it goes strawberry pie. Mmm.
Oh,
He like licks his finger, right?
yeah.
Ew. Ugh.
It's so bad. He, like, after this, he's all, like, stoked that she's dead. Goes downstairs, and his daughter's there, and they kind of have, like, a back and forth about how, like, she was unhappy with, like, whatever was happening to him, but now she kind of is, like, I don't know, is feeling better or some shit, and then talks about how she ate some of the pie, too. And I don't know how this curse works, but I guess that means she's cursed now.
Yeah, I think they were. Yeah.
I mean, I
Think-
couldn't tell if they were like hinting that she would be cursed, or like maybe you just aren't supposed to know, or you're just supposed to like make up your own mind. Because it seems like it would just be like one person would be able to get it, but I don't know. But then like Billy realizes that he probably passed the curse to his daughter and goes to eat a piece of the pie himself. And right before he does, like there's a knock on the door. And it's Mike, who is, like, shocked to see him there. And is like, oh, like, I was just, like, worried about Heidi being sad or whatever, so I came to check on her. And Billy's just like, oh, that's fine. Hey, I got some breakfast pie in here. And I was like, what the fuck is a breakfast pie?
The
No.
totally normal things of
Why
your
am
doctor
I-
visiting you in the morning to make sure you're all right, and breakfast pie.
Why am I not eating breakfast pie every day?
You are 100% missing out because breakfast pie is totally a thing.
What is it?
It is pie that you eat for breakfast,
But it's, I mean, so it's just pie.
but you eat it for breakfast.
Bacon and eggs inside.
That's what I meant. Like, I was like, is this
Oh.
like a thing that's like specifically you have like a certain thing as breakfast pie?
I feel like that.
Certain
Yeah.
thing.
It's called a quiche.
He will not be on this podcast anymore. But yeah.
Oh, also,
go
when
ahead.
he lets him into, he calls him White
What?
Doctor from town.
Yes.
So if you haven't gotten the theme here,
Also, like, now that I'm thinking about it, I don't think there's a single like non-white person in this movie other than like a couple of like the whatever vague ethnicity they made the gypsy group be.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't know if I could remember seeing like a single African American person in this movie.
I think that's
That's just
True.
Maine.
yeah. I think so. Okay, so do you want? Can I tell you what the actual ending is?
Yeah, I want to know the ending in the book.
Okay, so basically, whenever he gets the pie, he calls and talks to Linda and is like, hey, I'm going to come home, but I am going to take a while, so don't come back from your aunt's house yet. And she's like, whatever, daddy, whatever. So then, for some reason, it takes him, like, I don't know where he is. In the book, he follows them for, like, weeks and weeks and weeks. So he calls, then he talks to Heidi, and he's like, I'm coming home, baby. And she's like, oh, man, I'm so happy. So then he drives home, and so the thing happens where, like, she eats the pie or whatever. So then the next morning when he wakes up, he goes and sees that Linda's stuff is there, and he's like, oh my god. And he goes downstairs. I think in the movie they make it seem like Linda eats the pie, right? Linda eats the pie for breakfast, and then, like, she's gonna go play soccer. And either one, you're supposed to think that because Heidi already ate the pie, the curse is over, or two, it's just gonna take a while, right?
Mhm.
But you find out that Linda actually came home last night and shared the pie with Heidi, so they're both dead. And then he just straight up is like, cool, I'm gonna eat the pie. And, like, that's it. Say they,
so
like-
basically they all die.
Right, and so
Yep.
that was one of the other points that I wanted to make. They completely left out what happens to Richie after Halleck goes to, like, meet
Yeah.
him at the lighthouse. They just, like, never talk about him again. But what actually happens is that Gina, like, totally kills him, and when Halleck comes back to the car, it's Janelle's just, like, his hand in the passenger seat, and he's like, oh, gross, and he, like, throws it away and then eats McDonald's or something.
Yeah,
Which
I saw like a thing about how like he gets his hand cut off or something in the book.
Well, that's the only part they find of him.
Yeah. I don't know which ending I prefer. Like I kind of like the real like depressing ending of the book, but I also kind of like I don't know. I feel like the ending of the movie is like real gross and bleak as well.
I think if I want to believe that, first of all, I mean, we already talked about how he's completely unlikable. Like, almost everybody in this book is unlikable, which I think is part of the point. If I want to feel like I needed him to have learned a lesson, I think the book ending's better because well, he didn't care about Heidi, obviously, but he cared about Linda. He killed Linda, and he's like, I'm going to eat my just desserts. Get it?
Yeah.
And so he eats the pie, and then he dies, and that's fine. And then the movie, I feel like it's kind of like I'm going to just keep getting revenge on people, and I don't care. Like, I feel like, are we led to believe that he doesn't eat the pie? I don't know.
Yeah, like, I do like the fake out, though, that, like, I would imagine if you went to see this movie after reading the book when it came out, and you would see him, like, going to eat the pie after, like, he realized his daughter did. I do like that kind of, like, fake out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. They both are pretty good endings. Yeah, I don't know. I appreciate this movie more than I did when I saw it the first time, at least.
I wish it was less problematic, but
yeah, I feel like I could say that about all of Stephen King's work, though.
I mean, I feel like
strong counter argument.
I was gonna say, I assume, like I said, I haven't seen Maximum Overdrive, but I assume just from reading the short story that that's probably fine, but I know for a fact Dreamcatcher is not going to be in a different way, but
I don't remember Maximum Overdrive having anything like real kind of gross in it. I've watched it in a couple years, so
It's anti-good movie.
yeah, it's pretty truck racist.
I don't. What?
Well, it's truck racist. Races against trucks. I just want to keep all these long silences in here. Did anybody see like any news before?
Isn't there something about critters?
Oh yeah,
Yes. Got a couple of Shudder things this week.
Oh yeah, so yeah,
Not to harp on Shudder like we do every week, but
talk about
yeah.
Critters real quick. I'm pulling something up.
Critters is great and watch it.
I mean, so Shudder is basically has like a Critters TV show that they're doing that's coming out soon.
March 21st, I think is the date, right? It's a TV series.
Yes, yeah. Critters, a new binge, and then there's also like a movie coming out as well.
There's a movie?
Yeah,
I did not know that.
Another movie. I was pulling up the list of like stuff coming to streaming shit in March. Yeah, I'm fucking fully on board with anything Critters. So, but there is a bunch of fucking good shit coming to Shudder in March. If it's not already on there, will be coming shortly. But the Shudder exclusive of like Critters, a new binge. They're getting Puppet Master: The Littlest Reich, which I'm sure is super dumb, but Barbara Crampton's in it, so I'm gonna watch the shit out of it. Towards the end of the month, the first of the Last Drive-In with Joe Bob Briggs series is starting, which I cannot fucking wait for.
They're doing double headers every week, running through May.
I can't wait. They also started their like exclusive the She Kills podcast with Adrienne Barbeau, which looks pretty good. But they got Army of Darkness, The Burbs, Gremlins, Gremlins 2, Jacob's Ladder, Let's Scare Jessica to Death. There's a fucking super good shit coming to Shudder.
Watch The Burbs. Everyone.
Oh my god, watch The Burbs like 10 times.
I watched The Burbs last
amazing.
night. It's a perfect movie.
It's so good. Hulu has some nonsense, but has Return of the Living Dead 3, 4, and 5, which I kind of wish we hadn't made plans for movies in April because I want to do all of those now, especially Rave to the Grave.
I watched 3 the other night, and 3 is also a movie.
3 is pretty good. 4 and 5 are straight up garbage. But they would be... Return of the Living Dead 5 would be perfect for this podcast.
Yes.
You could also watch the Fog remake and What Lies Beneath on Hulu and Edward Scissorhands.
Yay!
That is your shit.
I love it.
Netflix has 2 movies. Tucker and Dale vs. Evil, which is pretty good. And then I think Tim Burton's Sweeney Todd, which I don't care.
I like it.
I don't like musicals.
I don't know. I haven't seen it, so I can't say either way, but I also kind of just don't want to watch it.
I saw
like
it in the
Sweeney
theater.
Todd.
You what?
Said I like musicals that are Sweeney Todd.
I don't like musicals, but I did see it in the theater, and it's like visually really cool.
Yeah, I feel like in the theater would be kind of pretty interesting, but I'm very over Tim Burton and Johnny Depp doing movies together.
I still love Tim Burton, but Johnny Depp is a little canceled, so...
Amazon Prime has A City of the Living Dead, Deep Red, Black Cat, The New York Ripper, The Crazies.
Ooh.
This got some pretty good stuff coming too. There's a bunch of shit coming to all of them in March that rules, but Shudder, per usual, is just straight up fucking killing it.
Hashtag Shudder.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hashtag sponsor me.
Isn't the What We Do in the Shadows series come out soon? Maybe it's next week.
Oh, does it?
What's today? I thought it was like the 17th or something, but I could be wrong. It looks so funny.
Do you know what that's coming on? It's like regular TV,
Netflix,
right?
I think.
Oh, I thought it was on actual TV.
Yeah, I think it's like FX or like something like that.
Or yeah.
I think it's like actual TV.
Yeah, you're correct. FX.
Yeah. Oh, God, I hope it hits Hulu like the next day. I'm gonna watch that. That movie is so good, and I'm all about Matt Berry being in it. Yeah, I don't know. I got nothing else. I was gonna shout out this podcast that just started called The Worst Horror Podcasts. I listened to their first episode. It's real good, and they describe themselves as 2 people that don't know what they're talking about, and I was like, oh, big same. But it's real good. I think they just dropped their second episode today, but go find them. They're on Instagram. I think it's just Worst Horror Podcast or something like that. You can follow us on Twitter at I Hope You Suffer, on Facebook at I Hope You Suffer Pod, on Instagram at I Hope You Suffer Podcast. Follow Katie at Werewolf Face on Instagram, and go look at her art because it's good, and she's done like all of the artwork for this podcast. I don't know. I got nothing else. You guys got anything?
I only had Joe Bob.
Yeah. More Joe Bob's always a good thing.
Yes. Agreed.
All right. We will be back next week with Maximum Overdrive.
Yeehaw!
I am very excited to rewatch. I Hope You Suffer, but why?
But why?